Okay, this video is a book review. The name of the book is Civilization by Kenneth Clark. This is Kenneth Clark right here. It's also a TV series. There are 13 parts to it. It is available on the internet for free. It's pretty good. It was made back in the 1960s, and I can remember when I was a kid watching this with my father. And my father had a very good intellectual influence on me. He liked civilization, literature, classical music, poetry, and he taught me about it. And because I didn't really learn much in school, I was a very frustrated kid in school. So my dad's influence on me was very good. We used to watch these old BBC, back when BBC used to be good. And we would watch, all the old novels like Tess of the D'Urbervilles and The Mayor of Casterbridge with Thomas Hardy as the author. So anyways, what's good about Civilization, the TV series and book? Kenneth Clark here is a scholar. He's of Scottish descent. There's a lot of smart Scottish people. There was a book by Arthur Herman. He's the guy who wrote The Cave in the Light, also the best philosophy book ever written. And his book he wrote a book about the Scots called How the Scots Invented the Modern World, and it's pretty good as well. Then there was a guy by the name of James Webb, and he wrote a book called Born Fighting about the Scots-Irish. So what I'm trying to say is the Scots are pretty smart. And he's a Scottish guy. I like the Scots. They all kind of remind me a little bit of each other. The Scottish, the Welsh, and I'm half Irish, so we've all got something in common. The big England was pushing us down, So anyways, so we had to try harder. So anyways, I do like Kenneth Clark. He's nice. He means well. He's trying to show you the best stuff in civilization. One of the best things about the book is whenever he talks about something, he travels there. So here he is, traveling to Paris to see the Cathedral of Notre Dame. Here he is traveling to Florence, and you can see, the big dome there in Florence. Here he is traveling to Rome, goes to the aqueduct, he goes to the Vatican. He's inside the Sistine Chapel, and he shows you all about the Sistine Chapel while he's inside of it. This book cover here with the king on the cover is the one that was on the table when I was a kid. And so that always had in my mind's eye an inspiration. I wanted to know this stuff the way my father knew it. So I think that's a very common story you'll hear, and men who get pretty intense education is that their fathers motivated them. Okay, so here's some quotes from Kenneth Clark. The lively, intelligent individuals who produced the Renaissance were bursting with vitality and confidence. Yep, the Italian Renaissance was incredible. And Will Durant had said that there were more genius, he thought, in Renaissance Italy than there were in Athens, ancient Greek Athens. I don't know for sure if that's true. That's a big statement, but it was quite extraordinary. Okay, Kenneth Clark continues. They sought to absorb the knowledge of antiquity, to equal it, and to master it. They were going to create their own race of giants and heroes. Yeah, Florence, man, they were the big deal back in the 1400s and the early 1500s. And then Pope Julius kind of transferred, it has been said, and Will Durant had this quote, transferred the Renaissance to Rome from Florence to some extent. Okay. And Kenneth Clark has a quote along those lines too. He says, just as Pericles was the visionary of Athens and the Acropolis, Pope Julius was the visionary of Rome and the Vatican. Yeah, so when somebody says, indulgences are bad and the Catholic Church wasted all this money, you know what? They built one of the best cathedrals of all time, or basilicas, the Basilica of St. Peter, the one that's shaped like the welcoming hands. They had Michelangelo, Raphael, and a bunch of other great artists make some of the greatest artworks ever in the history of mankind. They also had to defend the Papal States. Pope Julius, got on a horse and fought in combat. Okay, so Pope Julius, I think, is a real heroic. He's my favorite pope, okay? Yeah, I know he maybe had syphilis and he had a bunch of kids. You know what? Good. All the popes and priests ought to be married. They'd get better men if they allowed that. Okay, continuing on, he says the paintings of Raphael in the Vatican represent the summit of civilization. Yep, that's pretty much universally agreed on. If you study this stuff, you're like, holy crap, the School of Athens, magnificent, beyond good, beyond great, transcendent, sublime, one of the top 5 greatest paintings of all time. Okay, Kenneth Clark continues. I believe in the God-given genius of certain individuals, and I value a society that makes their existence possible. That's another question you should ask yourself. Why are geniuses so rare? Why is it so rare in history that we see a flowering of a couple geniuses that do something great? And the reason is, in most cultures are tyrannies, and they beat the crap out of them. Okay? Geniuses are not welcome in about 99% of societies because Remember the definition of a genius by D.K. Simonton. He's an author, a PhD guy who studies geniuses, and he wrote, a genius is someone who transforms a field. Okay, that means they change it. Okay, and you have to remember, in most sort of tyrannical ruling countries, which is the vast majority of countries ever since the beginning of the history of the world, they have a fixed way of doing things. The people at the top are profiting from keeping the system as it is. They don't want a genius coming along changing things. Look at conventional medicine. How welcoming is conventional medicine to somebody like McDougall or Kempner? No, they say, get the heck out of here, okay? They're not welcome. Kempner was welcome initially because he brought a lot of money to North Carolina Duke, but once they started having all these pills available to make money on, they told him to take a hike. Nobody would send McDougall a patient, okay? They tried to fire T. Colin Campbell. This is all how it goes. They wouldn't allow Caldwell Esselstyn to see patients at the Cleveland Clinic for dietary stuff until he had to go through a big legal fuss to be able to accomplish that. He basically told him, look, don't you think it's going to look bad when your doctors and many of the top people in administration here at the Cleveland Clinic are coming to be seen by me, but you want to allow the patients to be seen by me? Don't you think that's a little bit out of line? And so then they let him. But, you know, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not welcomed by conventional medicine or by anything else in society in general. Okay? All right, more quotes by Kenneth Clark. When one thinks of the Renaissance, immediately Michelangelo and Raphael come to mind. Yeah, they're the peak, the zenith of the Renaissance. Okay, then he continues. However, when you study the Renaissance, you'll see that there were lots of brilliant, multi-talented men in Florence and Rome. Just as Pericles, okay, we did that one already. What a man. Everyone who met Michelangelo was recognized he had unequaled power of the mind and skill of the hand. Okay, then he continues on. The creation of man by Michelangelo is one of those great works that is supremely great and wholly accessible. God has created a human soul. Kenneth Clark continues on now about Handel's Messiah. He says, Handel's Messiah is like the Michelangelo's creation of Adam, one of those rare works of art that appeal immediately to everyone. It is a masterpiece of the highest order. Whenever I hear it, it brings tears to my eyes. Okay, so he gets it. So that's all good. Western civilization has been a series of rebirths. Surely this should give us confidence in ourselves. Yes, right now, Western civilization better have one of those rebirth movements before it collapses. But I do like that. So he's positive, he's optimistic, he's confident, and he makes that point that a society to succeed, it must have confidence in itself. It must admire itself and believe that it is better than other societies, because that's how you achieve. You know, how does somebody win an athletic championship? They have to believe they're the best and then go out and prove it. And how does a society win, in a sense, a cultural championship to prove that it is great? It has to believe it and then go out and prove it. Okay? And then Kenneth Clark continues, it is a lack of confidence more than anything that destroys civilization. And I think that's part of what a lot of these things are all about, like modern art museums with statues of feces and all this nonsense. I think that's an effort of people who want to destroy America to destroy America's confidence in itself. So why would anybody want to stand up for, defend, support, a modern art museum where there's a bunch of crap that's used to launder money, that look like a child could draw it? That's not civilization. That's BS, okay? And, destruction of educational institutions and other institutions, all of these things are done, I believe, in part to make a civilization lose confidence in itself so it won't defend itself, so it can easily collapse and take on over. And I think that's also a big part of all these estrogenic chemicals in the food, the water, the air, etc., the personal care products, to feminize society, turn it into sort of a weak gynocracy so that it can easily be overpowered and will not stand up for itself. So anyways, that's a topic for another day, but to know the greatness of Western civilization, it's good to watch things like this and to know them. So how would I rate this? Well, when I was young, this had a very positive, inspiring effect on me, and I thought it was so cool, all these places that he went to. And I liked talking about it with my dad, and I wanted to learn more about this when I was older. I've studied Western civilization quite a bit, read numerous books on it, etc., etc. So I kind of knew almost all the stuff in here, but I still liked it. It was good. So I would say if studying Western civilization is new to you, you'll learn a lot from this. If you've already been studying it extensively, it'll be nice. It'll take you to the places. You see some good pictures, a couple good quotes. but it's not that intellectually deep. He doesn't like go telling you all these facts and stuff. It's more like he shows, take a look at this, isn't it beautiful? And so, anyways, I thought it was good. I thought it was nice. I thought it was worthwhile. But it's not deep thinking. You know, he doesn't go as deep as Arthur Herman would, okay? He doesn't go as deep even as Will Durant does. But he's better than them at showing you the actual places so you can see them for yourself.